Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are we've got a big show for you today. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday. There is a lot going on in the world of sports. We're going to start off our show talking about some of the NBA action from last night, starting in the West with the Minnesota Timberwolves falling to the Denver Nuggets in a battle between Jokic, the MVP, three-time MVP now, and Rudy Gobert, who after this year is now a four-time Defensive Player of the Year award. We'll break down that matchup on in Game 5. Then we'll move into the other game from last night. The Knicks took on the Pacers. A bounce-back effort for them after getting blown out in Game 4. They return the favor back at home in Madison Square Garden. We'll break that game down, break down what the rest of the series might look like after these teams trade devastating blows with each other. We'll talk a little bit about WNBA. Caitlin Clark, she made her debut last night for the Indiana Fever. So we'll talk about how her debut went, what we can look at for the future, any positives for professional women's basketball game, and then we will move in baseball. I have my power rankings. We're going to go over them. It's been about 2 weeks since I did my power rankings, so we'll take a look at what has changed, what's going on in the world of baseball, and what our show with the NFL schedule release. Stuff is getting very slowly all day today. We should have an entire schedule by the end of the day. But what we do now, we know a lot of the prime games, we know all of the international games, and we know all of the Thanksgiving, Christmas, Black Friday games. So we'll go over some of those matchups, see what we think uh, of the schedule so far. But before we get into all of that, remember, like we are, all you have to do is go to GSMC. Again, that is GSMCSportsNetwork. The link is in the description. If you need an even bigger part of the show, we appreciate anything you do. If you have a massive donation, that donation message will pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see all of you like I was saying, we're going to start our show with some baseball. We're going to get right into it with a really interesting conversation I was having with a friend of mine last night. The MVP was the Defensive Player of the Year. This isn't something that happens all too often, where you have the MVP, Nikola Jokic, taking on the Defensive Player of the Year in Rudy Gobert. It's rare when they get matched up against each other positionally. But this is one of those things that's happening in a nice matchup, and Rudy Gobert is getting cooked. Just putting it lightly, Rudy Gobert has not been standing much of a chance in Game 5 against Nikola Jokic. When Nikola Jokic decided to turn the Jets on in the middle of down, especially in Game 5, he had a masterclass last night. 40 points, 13 assists, and the big number here outside of the counting stats, no turnovers. 13 assists and 0 turnovers is insane. He's moving up the leaderboards for all-time playoffs assists as a center, I believe 4 right now, all-time. He's on the way to probably the most all-time, the pace that he is on. It's insane to watch him work. He's able to, it doesn't matter if you have Rudy Gobert, who played good defense on him. There were plenty of moments in this game, a game that the Nuggets won pretty handily, 112-97. There were plenty of moments in this game where it seemed like he was clamped up. He didn't have a good shot, and it didn't matter. There was multiple times where he just had to throw something up at the buzzer. You know what Jokic's shot looks like, the over the head, crazy looking shot. It goes in. He hit a 3-pointer over him as time expired, and on the shot clock, he goes for 40 points. He outduels the entirety of the Timberwolves team, the Timberwolves team that played pretty good basketball last night. Like I said, their defense was solid overall. If you were watching that game, the numbers don't imply it because Nikola Jokic went for 40 points, but there's certain things that when you're going against a guy like Nikola Jokic, it just does not matter what you do defensively. He's going to be able to get it in. He'll make all those tough shots. He'll be able to make that difference that you're really looking for. He's one of the best finishers of all time. Of all time, you let him get close to the basket, there's almost nothing he'll miss. He'll throw up a circus shot and you expect it to go in. That's how crazy good he is. And I don't want this to sound like a diss on Rudy Gobert, although there are plenty of Rudy Gobert. There's plenty of Rudy Gobert hate out there. But I was having this discussion. My roommate here, he's not the biggest basketball guy. He was asking me, "Hey, what's Rudy Gobert's legacy look like? Is he a Hall of Famer?" And your first thought to that question is yes, he's a Hall of Famer. He's won 4 Defensive Player of the Years, but you take a look at what he does. He doesn't have that kind of legacy, and the talk surrounding Rudy Gobert isn't, oh, he's an all-time great. It's oh, he's a rim protector. You know, he doesn't have that legacy, and I think if he wins a championship this year, it can really make a difference. But if he doesn't win that championship, and it doesn't seem like he is, because they've run into a now fully awakened uh, a Denver Nuggets team that was not awake before in the beginning, that we saw the Minnesota Timberwolves go 2-0 up on. Because if the Nuggets keep playing like this, man, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be really, really tough for them to for the Timberwolves to win a game. We saw it in Game 4. You know, you had a masterclass of a game from Anthony Edwards. He puts up 44 points, and you still can't win it. If you can't win a game with your best player scoring 44 points, and it not even really being that close down the stretch. I mean, you lose that game by 8 points, but you were down by 10, 12 points the entire second half. Uh, Mike Conley being out really hurt this Timberwolves team that already struggles a little bit defensively. And I think really the biggest factor in this comeback has been Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon has been playing great basketball down the stretch of this series. You know, you talk about Game 4. He goes 7 of 7 from the field, puts up 27 points. Here, this game, he has 18 points, 10 rebounds, a double double. He's been huge for them. He's making tough shots. He's playing great defense. He's being that guy that brings the energy. And the Denver Nuggets feel like they've arrived. It didn't feel that way in the Lakers series. It didn't feel that way in the beginning of this series, but it really feels like they've arrived. It feels like Nikola Jokic is here. It feels like the rest of that team is ready to go, rearing to get the job done against this Minnesota Timberwolves that finally poked the bear enough to wake them up. And it's a little scary. It's a lot scary, actually. I don't think there's a team that looks this good right now in the entire league. You can make the argument for the Celtics. You can make the argument for the Knicks that we'll talk about in the next segment, actually. But there just isn't that team that's so put together that can just seemingly get a bucket whenever they want to get a bucket. They just get it down to Jokic on the inside. Even when he's going up against the Defensive Player of the Year, it does not matter. And these, going back to Jokic for a second here, his 40 points, it wasn't like he was just chucking up shots the whole game. He was really efficient. 15 for 22 from the field. His true shooting percentage is out of the roof. I mean, you take the free throws in there as well, and he's 23 for 31. That's really, really good. And he was so close to a triple double. 3 rebounds away from a triple double. He didn't quite get the rebounds. But the most impressive number for me, and I touched on it a little bit, is the 13 assists to 0 turnovers. To be a big man with that much touch and still be able to put up 40 points, 0 turnovers on 13 assists is an insane number. That is not something that happens. Nikola Jokic is insane. He's showing why he's the best basketball player on the planet, and there just really isn't anybody that can guard him. There's no one on this planet that can guard Nikola Jokic consistently. When he decides to get aggressive, as he's started to get aggressive, more and more aggressive down the stretch of this series, we're seeing the Timberwolves really struggle. And one of the hardest things is they run that pick and roll with Jamal Murray up at the top, and they get a guy like Gobert to switch on to Murray. But it doesn't matter who Jokic is on; that's always going to be a mismatch. But if you get Murray on Gobert, that's another mismatch right there, and then you have two mismatches against a really good defensive team. The Timberwolves, who honestly are a team maybe have the best defense in the entire league. They're super switchable, super long. If there's a team that can shut down Jokic, it's them. I mean, they have Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. They have Karl Anthony Towns, who, while not the greatest defender, is quick and long and big and can help on those double teams on the help side that we've seen them do on Jokic a lot and just has not mattered. Jokic has been able to conquer everything that they throw at him seemingly with ease. So I'm not too convinced that the Timberwolves are going to be able to bounce back in Game 6. Just with the way these last three games are going, they've lost all their momentum. Anthony Edwards is trying his best, but it's not enough. He doesn't have the help around him. This team, aside from him and the occasional Karl Anthony Towns night, they don't really have any help. There's no help offensively. If they had a certified second option for scoring, someone like if they had a Kyrie Irving on this team, I know that's not necessarily the greatest fit for this team for what they're looking at defensively, but someone with his kind of skill set offensively to be the number two to Anthony Edwards, this could be a much more interesting series, especially down the stretch. But the way it's looking right now, the Timberwolves look like they're out of gas, and the Nuggets look like they're just getting started. They're ramping up. It really seems like. So I'm about ready to call this series. Maybe the Timberwolves can steal one more at home tomorrow. We'll have to see. But Nikola Jokic is crazy. That's my big takeaway from this game. He is insane, and there's no one on this planet that can currently stop him. Uh, we'll see what happens in a couple years when Victor Wembanyama continues to develop. Maybe he can be a guy that can go toe to toe, play some defense against Nikola Jokic. But we'll have to see about that. That's not for at least another year or two. But anyway, in our next segment, we're going to continue talking some basketball. We're going to finish up our basketball coverage from last night, going to Madison Square Garden in New York, where the Knicks respond from their blowout and blow out the Pacers in kind, respond accordingly to take a 3-2 series lead in that series. So stick around. We're going to break down that game coming up next on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.